welcome to episode number 118 of Week in Review. My name is Sean, and on this week's show we have a veritable smorgasbord of mini reviews, as I have a bunch of different things that I'm going to talk about, just kind of taking you through my the last week of my life, and a couple of sweet treats to talk about. We'll also look forward to this week's new releases and streams happening over on twitch.tv/ShaunosaurusRex. So this is a little bit of a different format for Week in Review this week. It actually kind of harkens back to the original idea of Week in Review, which was to just talk about stuff that I had been watching or playing regardless of the year. I tend to focus a little bit more on the new release stuff, which makes sense because I'm rarely, if ever, going outside of like something that I'm actually interested in, but sometimes I will make like more of an effort to get to it. So if like a new game comes out, maybe I'm like 50-50 on, I go like, oh, I could talk about that on the show, and that'll kind of push me in the direction of purchasing or playing or going to see the movie. So just walk you through the last week of what I've been experiencing. I would say enjoying, but it's been kind of a hit or miss week. Fortunately, though, we do get to start on a high note. We'll start with Tuesday, the day last week's video posted, and I was kind of just flipping channels. I didn't have like any streams or anything planned. I needed to like upload some videos. So something that's really been interesting to me is watching like networks that are based around live sporting events and seeing how they deal with not having live sporting events. So like ESPN, Pac-12 Network, NBCSN, all that stuff. Like, what are they playing? They're probably playing some random baseball game from the World Series from 1980. And that stuff is interesting to me because there's a lot of things that I take for granted on the screen that are gone, that for whatever reason I just never retain the information. So like having a consistent scoreboard on the screen is a thing that I love having because I like just having it there, so I always know what the score is and what the pitch count is and all that stuff. That's not a thing that happened in 1980. They just show it every once in a while, and you just have to log it in your brain and hope that you remembered. But boy, that was annoying. I just wanted to just put the thing on the screen. We figured this out. Just put it on the screen. But this isn't a review of a 1980 baseball game. More to the point is ESPN2 was playing the new series The Last Dance. And The Last Dance was announced a while back for what I thought was a June release, but I could be misremembering that. And I remember putting it in the back of my head and then subsequently forgetting, like, I should watch this show because that sounds like it could be pretty interesting. They have interviews with all these key players. Could be kind of cool to experience something that I wasn't necessarily like cognizant of when I was 8 years old. Like, I knew what the Bulls were. I understood that Michael Jordan was a thing. I love Space Jam, but I didn't follow basketball that much when I was a super young kid. I still don't really follow it now, but I'm at least now like more familiar. If you in 20 years were to do a documentary about like LeBron James or some of the bigger faces in the NBA right now, then I would be able to recall, like, oh, I remember the 2016 finals or whatever, this, that, and the other thing. So I'd been hearing some like pretty good things about it, and I thought like I would just flip up to ESPN2, see what it was. And I missed like the first like 15 minutes of the episode because they were like re-airing it on the Tuesday night that I was watching. And I flipped in just to see what it was about. I'd been reading things about it. People seemed like they were really excited about it. I'd been seeing tweets about it, rave reviews, positive reviews. And when I flipped, I sat there for the next hour and 45 minutes completely enthralled with what I was watching. It is incredible. It's a really weird experience to watch something that you've heard people talk about or read people talk about and not have it not only meet but exceed the expectations of what you have for it. For it to be this engrossing, engaging, and interesting just blows my mind. It's so well done. And what I love so much about it is the way they're talking about the events. They set it up in the like current timeline of like 1998. But then they go back and they show you exactly why things are the way they are. They explain who Michael Jordan is, what he means to the city of Chicago, how he is from a mental standpoint of like always doing things to the absolute best of your ability, and how this one incident that happened in his like second year in like one of the final games of the season has like ticked at him for years and years and has like built up and exploded to this. We get backstory on Scottie Pippen and why he maybe took the deal that he took a little quicker than you would think he would, or he probably should have had more money, but he didn't because he had like an injury and there's other factors at play. And it's so well done. And I couldn't believe, like, I was so happy with how good it was that I was actually amped to watch episodes 3 and 4, which I haven't quite watched yet. As of the recording of this, they aired last night. I was streaming and I just didn't get to watching them just yet, but I will. This show is absolutely fantastic. Moving ahead to Wednesday, I scheduled a stream for kind of like what I've been doing in the last couple of weeks, where it's just kind of like weird, wacky Wednesday. For a while, I had a show that I was doing called Grab Bag, where I just had like a random plethora of games at my disposal to play them for like an hour or whatever it was, and then just move on, do a couple episodes of those at a time, just in case something happened and I needed to like go back in and edit. I gave myself time to get it edited correctly. There's a whole like brain scheme going on that probably wasn't as complex as I thought it was, but hey, this is me. That's just how it works. But since that series ended and since the stay-at-home order has been in place, I haven't really been able to go out and get more games to do a like second season of that series, so I've just been kind of pulling random games here or there. And I remembered a couple weeks ago that there was a Jackass video game. The Jackass video game being based on the television series and the movie series of the same title, which featured a bunch of idiots doing dumb things for our enjoyment, I guess, because people love watching other people in pain and misery. I don't know. It was a show that I enjoyed because it's the very like baseline, just very stupid comedy, and it worked pretty well. They had like, I've heard them talk about it, and Johnny Knoxville is the linchpin to that, pretty much that whole operation, where they have to have some level of a charismatic host so that everything else can kind of fall into place around that. And Johnny Knoxville is that. He's a very charismatic, interesting guy. I like watching him on screen. He even did some like acting roles after that. He was in an Arnold Schwarzenegger movie I can't remember the title of, and he was also in The Ringer, which was actually a pleasant surprise. But we're not talking about those. We're talking about a shitty 2007 PlayStation 2 game called Jackass the Video Game. It follows a plot, which is weird, because if you've ever watched Jackass, it's just a bunch of stunts pushed together to make something that makes you laugh for 30 minutes or an hour and a half in the theater, and then you move on. There's a plot in this game where you play as a cameraman who now has to direct a bunch of episodes after presumably a stunt goes wrong, and the original director has to get escorted out of the set or area, whatever, in an ambulance. Basically, you're given 7 different episodes. Each episode has a different mini game that relates to some sort of stunt, whether it is playing whack-a-mole with Wee Man, where he's in a dumpster and he pops his head up and you have to hit him in the head with a like wiffle ball bat, whatever they call it. He has 4 spots that are on the in the dumpster that correspond to the 4 face buttons of the controller. The games are super simple. They're not super well tutorialized, where it doesn't like explain it to you. The game makers just trust that you see the controls on the screen. Some of them are more intuitive than others. The Wee Man one is very intuitive because it's a very simple, easy to understand game where it's like, oh, he's on the right, I hit the circle button, he's on the left square. That sort of stuff makes sense. Some of the mini games are even kind of broken. Like there's one where you are doing like rooftop bumper cars, and basically the idea of these stunts is that there's stuff that you just can't do because it would literally kill people. So being on top of a building where you are knocking your friends off of the edge of a building is not a good idea to do in person, but you can get away with it in a video game because nothing happens. The problem with that one is that the controls are a little wonky, but the AI is designed to always chase you, so you end up just kind of driving in a circle while you chase people who are chasing you, and it's kind of annoying. But there are also some games that have like a little bit more of a difficulty curve, which is a weird thing to say, where you need to do an extra step that the game doesn't clearly show you. It's weird and kind of hard to explain. The mini games / stunts are pretty hit and miss. The Wee Man one I talked about was really dumb. Pushing someone down a hill and controlling their ragdolly body down is pretty funny because it's just enjoyable to watch, and you lean them off so that you can get injuries and stuff. Each of the mini games has like 5 challenges that you need to do. When you complete the challenges, you get money. Once you get enough money, you can proceed to the next episode, which introduces more challenges and then more stunts and all that stuff. So you see the loop of what they're going for. You can unlock new costumes for each of the characters. You can get money to unlock videos and other things. So there's actually like some video gamey elements in there. It's just very bare bones, and the mini games slash stunts are just too hit and miss. Like, going through some of them one time is like, okay, that's totally cool. Don't ever really want to see that again. But some of them are actually kind of interesting. It's a game. Like, it's a dumb $10, like, weird Wednesday stream that I had enough fun with. Moving on to Thursday, I continued more of MLB The Show's franchise mode. I've been working through the complete season of the Seattle Mariners. As of the time of recording, I'm about 30 games in. Having a really good time with it. It has some glitches and some weirdness to it. The chest portions of the jerseys are really stiff, and there's a lot of clipping with the sleeves into, like, right where it says Seattle. That looks super odd. There are some weird clipping issues with the ball not connecting with the barrel of the bat. It just goes right through. Super weird stuff. But I think the thing that I took away from this week's portion of the franchise mode was that the sliding difficulty scale that I'm working with on the hitting side of things is too impatient, and I finally figured out why it bothers me. So the idea behind it is actually pretty simple. When you are brand new, first playing the game, it starts you at like a beginner level. As you rank up in it, it starts to change up the timing a little bit. It adds more variables and what kind of pitches you're getting. So like, it'll throw a lot of four-seam fastballs initially, but once you start to get higher, it starts to add curveballs and changeups and stuff like that. And I've noticed that I have a pretty rocky up and down portion where I'm into like rookie plus or even advanced, and then I have a really hard time in one or two of the games, and then it slides all the way back down, like all the way literally back down to beginner, because I'm just off on the timing and I'm a little impatient at the plate personally. I think that this system is great. I really enjoy it. I just wish it was a little bit more patient. And the reason I say that is because some pitchers should be harder to hit against than other pitchers. So I'm going to use the example of like a Justin Verlander, a Steven Strasburg, or even a third guy whose name I always forget. It is Max Scherzer. That's who it is. Those are three of the better pitchers in the game, and I actually played the Washington Nationals in a 2-game set in Seattle, and I had to face those two guys. They have three other pitchers that they could use, and I had to face those two guys. They're really good pitchers. So what I think it should do is it should make it harder. Like, Justin Verlander and those guys are great pitchers. So it should be harder for me to hit. They'll make fewer mistakes. They'll change up their patterns more. I feel like those guys should just be harder to hit. And the issue that it ends up having is one of the pitchers that I was playing against with the Nationals, I believe it was Max Scherzer, but it could have been Steven Strasburg. Doesn't matter. The point is the main pitch that they were using was a sinker. Their primary pitch is X, their secondary and their tertiary, and their fourth pitch is according, I think it's circle, triangle, and square. Whatever. The primary pitch should be the sinker for this particular pitcher. I really struggled with that because I just struggle with off-speed stuff. I'm impatient with it, and I just can't. I have a hard time getting into a rhythm with it. That's fine. I should struggle with that because he's a really good pitcher. Again, just a great pitcher. Because of the way the game is designed, the difficulty curve slides really, really quickly because they're like, oh boy, it's been like 6 innings and he is like maybe one hit and he keeps hitting into like double plays and he's striking out and he's just not doing very well. So we'll go ahead and we'll lower that difficulty down. The problem is that makes his secondary pitch, which is a four-seam fastball, his primary pitch, which doesn't make any sense. So it breaks how the pitcher would normally be pitching, and it also led to like a garbage 2-run home run to Kyle Seager, where I was like, I did not deserve to hit that home run at all. This game dropped it way low to where basically he just launched fastballs for like an inning and a half, and I was like, oh, I think I get the pattern. It's just a four-seam fastball. And that was really weird. It's led to a couple of moments like that where it's like, I don't know if I really earned the win in that game, or I don't know if I really earned those 2 runs. It's not the biggest deal in the world because I do feel pretty confident in my pitching ability. So like being able to hold leads with like hold a 1-0 lead or hold a 2-0 lead feels good. But it's when you get those kind of like garbage, like, oh boy, this error probably shouldn't have happened. That's when it gets a little weird. I'm still having a really good time with it. I'm really enjoying doing the Rico series. I think that's probably the best video I've done maybe ever, but it's definitely the best video I've done recently. So you should check that out on Thursday here on YouTube. It's fantastic. I'll stream more of it. It's great stuff. I really like MLB The Show 20. Just a couple little quirks here and there that are like, On Friday, I started FMV Friday, which is a brand new series that I'm kind of working with. It's a very small series. I think it's like going to be like 4 episodes or something every Friday for the next 3 Fridays as of the posting of this video. So I got to play Late Shift, which is one of the first like Wales Interactive published FMV games. I believe it came out around 2016 on the Xbox One. I had played the Complex previously, really enjoyed my time with that, and I thought, I'm going to go back and I'm going to play some of their other stuff just because they're short enough experiences to where I don't feel like I'm using that much of my time. I think they're fun and interesting experiences on their own, so why not? So I bought like a FMV pack that they had that was like $50 and had all 5 of them. So I guess technically I bought the Complex twice, but whatever. It was actually a better deal to buy that pack than it was to just buy the games individually because one of them's priced weirdly. Doesn't matter. Point is, played Late Shift. Really enjoyed it. One of the things that I'm really enjoying about doing this series is I'm not actually looking up any information about the games. I'm just like, just do whatever. I will follow wherever the story takes me. And if you had asked me to guess what kind of game Late Shift was going to be, I would never have guessed crime thriller. Because that's what it was. You play as a guy who works at a parking garage. He gets mixed up with some bad people. And depending on the choices you make, my playthrough ended up being an accomplice in this big crime. And I've noticed that part of my issue with some of these games is I get a lot of people killed. So, whoops. It was a good time. It was another like solid B experience where there are a couple times where the writers think that they're way more clever than they actually are. Particularly one like escape sequence where like one dude grabs the other dude and then points a gun at your character, and it's like, okay, somebody wrote this and was like, I have it. This brilliant idea that I can get them out of this situation. And you're like, I mean, sure. But it was good. I mean, the acting was fine. The decisions were kind of cool. I like seeing how that stuff branches out. And usually I don't ever really think about replaying games all that frequently. But with these, because they're such short experiences, I go, what if I go through one more time and I make specifically like decidedly different decisions? Like, well, how would that play out? I don't know. It was interesting, a fun B-movie time. I enjoyed it. After continuing the adventures of Wallace and Gromit in Project Zoo, which is a game that I'm really enjoying, on Saturday I elected to play Fallout 76. And you might be asking yourself, if you are familiar with Fallout 76, you'll probably be thinking, Sean, why the fuck would you do that? Well, I was kind of morbidly curious about it. For those of you who don't know, I'll catch you up really quickly. Fallout 76 is a multiplayer game set in the Fallout universe. It was widely panned upon release. It was broken, buggy, messy, shitty, sucky, not good. Nobody really seemed to want a multiplayer game set in a Fallout universe, or at least people weren't super warm on the idea. And I think that comes on the heels of maybe not being the biggest fans of Fallout 4. People really love Fallout 3, love New Vegas, and the first-person RPG stories that they tell. They lean way more heavily to the RPG side rather than the shooter side. Because VATS is a thing that you actually have to use. It slows down time and allows you to pick where you want to hit an enemy. So you can shoot him in the arm if you have a better shot on it, or go for a headshot, chest shot, whatever. This game isn't great. The reason I played it, aside from being morbidly curious about it, is that there's a brand new update called the Wastelanders DLC, and what that does is that brings in NPCs. The biggest problem that people seem to have with Fallout 76 initially was there weren't any NPCs. What people like about Fallout games is going around, talking to people, gaining quests, the branching dialogue paths, and just experiencing that world. Fallout 76 at launch did not have that. Instead, it just had a bunch of audio tapes, which kind of broke the experience, because as soon as you put audio tapes into a game, or at least a multiplayer game, no one's going to be listening. They're all just going to be talking over it. They do have the one really cool thing where if you put an audio tape into your Vault Boy, it will play even if you take your Vault Boy away from the screen, or you put it away. That's a great feature. More games should add that. I want to be able to explore the world with the audio playing. Here's what sucks about it. For some reason, the audio is completely broken in Fallout 76. I had everything maxed out, and I never have anything maxed out on OBS, which is what I record on and what I stream on. Never have that game audio maxed out because it's usually way too loud. I had it maxed out at 0 decibels, negative 0 decibels. For context, most stuff is at negative like 20.3 to negative 15.3. So you're working with a pretty good number here. It was maybe 3/4 of what a negative 20.3 decibel recording green thing would be. I don't know what it would be called. Level. That's what it's called. It was so quiet, and it was so quiet in my headphones. And here's what sucks about that. Xbox likes to make noises when you unlock achievements, or when friends are online, or when you get invited to a party, or you get a message that tells you to suck from Hot Dog Lover 69. Those are still really loud. So if you are playing a game like this and your audio is super quiet, when you unlock an achievement, it blows your eardrums out. So I don't know what the hell the problem was. The game itself wasn't all that interesting. I think they lean way too heavily into the camp aspect and the like decorative sort of stuff of like, oh, you could use these crafting benches to strip things for parts and break this down to create new guns, to make mods, to do this. And like, that's not what I want. Just please, I just want to like go on a quest and do this and do that. The gunplay is fine. It's probably the best the series has been. It takes a lot more from what Fallout 4 did well, which was actually play like a first-person shooter. Going back to Fallout 3 and Fallout New Vegas, those are very stilted first-person experiences. You're going to look at that and you're going to go, this is way too janky, which again, why they included vets. The game is still broken even outside of the audio aspect, where there's a point in the first mission that you get, or one of the early quests that you get, I should say. I think it's the first mission, or first quest that you get from the initial Wastelanders DLC. And you can tell that it's Wastelanders DLC because there's actually like NPCs and conversations instead of just audio logs, where you have to go really far north. And you are, I was, because I was still very early in the game. It was the first time I had played it since the beta that I played. I think I played that beta for like an hour, never really went back, bought the game on sale, whatever. Anyway, you have to go way north. You're very low level. You get to a point where you need to either convince someone to leave the particular bar. I'm forgetting what it's called, but you have to convince someone to leave them alone or kill them. Now, you're a level 6, they're a level 9. That theoretically would be pretty difficult. For whatever reason, when I started just opening fire on these people, they just stood there. They stood there as I shot them in the head repeatedly, and then they died. And then the other guy that was in the room just stood there, and they got shot in the head, and then died. And then I walked out, and normally at the top of your screen, it'll show the character's health, and it'll be either white or red depending on if they are friendly or if they are your enemy. And the game, with one guy standing at a pool table, that's not how you shoot a pool, like this, standing at a pool table, had a red reticule and a red health bar, and did not turn around until I shot him in the spine twice. And then he was like, hey, you! And I got out very easily. And I was like, this is just, it's broken. It's not where it should be, even with this update. It was just really weird. It soured the experience. It wasn't terribly interesting in the first place. I don't know. I don't really know what I was expecting out of Fallout 76. I guess I was just curious if, was it really that bad, you know? Or how does someone who comes into this game a year and a half later with a brand new update, how do I feel about it? Do I feel more positively about it, or do I just go like, I mean, this is a game, and I am not coming back to it, because it's definitely the second one. Finally, in all of this grand smorgasbord feast for you, I played Predator Hunting Grounds, which was a game that I was kind of on the fence with. So, Ilphonic, who developed this, developed the game Friday the 13th. It's an asymmetrical multiplayer game, which is a little bit different than your typical multiplayer. Halo and Call of Duty are Halo is actually probably the best antithesis to this in the arena style, where the maps are symmetrical and the weapons that you can get are pretty even, or they're an equal distance apart from each other. This asymmetrical multiplayer game in Friday the 13th and Predator Hunting Grounds has a group of smaller, weaker characters versus like a big, huge, giant Goliath. So in Friday the 13th, you have 7 campers at the camp, and you have to try and escape Jason, who is vastly overpowered, like just incredibly overpowered. There are ways to get around it. It's probably a little bit too specific, and it's, you know, whatever. I'm not reviewing that game. I watched a ton of it. That's the point. The point is, I really enjoyed watching it. I think asymmetrical multiplayer is fascinating to watch. It's cool to see from both perspectives, like watching the very powerful character like chase down and try to figure out where the very weak characters are, and it's super fun to watch. People got really into it. They were like creating characters based on them. There was the infamous, like, not infamous, the well loved, at least I loved it, the Chad of Friday the 13th. I really enjoyed all the time I spent with that game just watching it, and I never really got into it. I made like one video here for like Halloween that was super weird, so you go back and watch that. But I never played the game. I never bit on it. I think I either bought it for like really cheap, or it was free with either Xbox Game with Gold or PlayStation Plus, one of the two. I can't remember. I would assume it was PlayStation. It doesn't matter. With Predator Hunting Grounds, I thought, okay, this is my opportunity to get in on the ground floor. So I watched a bunch of it before I jumped in, and I thought, yeah, this is the one. I'm going to jump in, opening weekend, I'm going to play it. Here's the big problem with this game. Everybody wants to be Predator, and that means that the wait times for being Predator are like 8 to 9 times the wait for being part of the fire team. The setup for Predator Hunting Grounds is very simple. You have a fire team of 4 people, 4 weak human players, and you have a series of objectives that you need to complete while taking out AI soldiers that are pretty easy and manageable, doing some stuff that's like, oh, turn these valves until they're done, or find this thing, or do this, whatever. Like, it's very simple tasks. Meanwhile, you have the Predator hunting you down, and he is a big, powerful being that will rip you to shreds in very few hits. That's the basic concept. You're trying to either kill the Predator, or you're trying to get to the chopper and escape. Super simple concept. I think it's a little bit better than what I watched. Granted, I just watched of Friday the 13th because this is more straightforward. You're much more directed in where you're going and what you're doing and how you're doing it. I think that's super helpful. Keeps me engaged and keeps me in a way of like, okay, I'm not relying on the game to give me like the car keys or the gas can in Friday the 13th. This is just like, go here, find this. It's on the map. Do it. Run. I played about 3 hours of the game, and while I had a good time, I can definitely tell that this is a game that's better with friends, or at least being in a party chat. And it would be more fun to be in that group of friends in a private match so you can actually be the Predator. I played 3 straight hours of it. I only ever played as the fire team. The one time that I tried to play as the Predator, I waited for 10 minutes and I was like, screw this. I'll just keep being the fire team. Because being the fire team's fun enough, but you definitely want a better mixture of it. Hopefully the wait times will cool down as people maybe drop off of it or have their fill of being the Predator and maybe are more willing to bounce back and forth. But it was a good introductory experience. It was kind of a game that I bought on a whim where I was like, I don't know if I'm really going to like this. I'm glad that I had as much fun with it as I did, even though I only got to experience I only got to experience one part of the game. I was going to say half, but I experienced way more than half the game. But still, only experiencing one perspective of the game, had a good time. So there you go. Predator Hunting Grounds. I'll probably play more of it. If you're playing Predator Hunting Grounds, tweet me at Shaunosaurus Rex, or you can leave a comment down below. Maybe we can squad up and trade off so that everybody can get to be the Predator, because it would be cool. I only got to do the tutorial, and then I was like, well, guess I'm fire team. Whatever. At least I look cool in my sunglasses. Now that we have survived that smorgasbord of mini reviews of the things I've been playing over the last week, I have 2 sweet treats for you, and they are actually oddly similar. So we'll start with the kind of more breakfasty of the items first. We have these birthday cake Franz donuts. We've featured Franz donuts on the show before. I particularly liked their apple donuts. And I don't know why all of a sudden like birthday cake stuff is coming out. But it is. So we'll crack these open. Please don't go out just to buy these. If you can, stay inside. Just, unless you're going out to get the essentials, which I was getting, which was a thing of bourbon and a big box of Rice Krispies. It's a lot louder than I anticipated it would be. But if you do need to go outside, here's a couple of things that you can grab. So here we go. We have the donut. It's very funfetti colored. Has all kinds of colors everywhere. Look at that. That looks good. Crack this in half. Put that back because I don't need a whole donut at 7:48 on a Monday. Okay, smells fine. Did I get duped? Did I get bamboozled here into buying donuts that are just regular donuts but are colorful? I'm not really tasting much of a difference here. I genuinely don't taste a difference. It may be a little cakier, but they taste incredibly similar to just the regular glazed donuts. Boy, they got me hook, line, and sinker, didn't they? Okay, so that's the birthday cake donuts. I genuinely don't taste a difference. I don't know. So we'll move on to the other item, which hopefully tastes more different than its counterpart, and I think it will because it's considerably different right off the top. This one actually has kind of an interesting story. I was streaming Fallout 76 on Saturday. That's not how you play games with the controllers way out here, unless you're playing Switch. And I was sitting here doing whatever, streaming, and all of a sudden, out of my right side, my right ear, I hear something kind of clutter over there, like clatter. And I'm like, okay, that was weird. But there's like kind of some crap that's like piled on top of each other precariously. And I thought maybe something just kind of fell. Whatever, no big deal. It happens every once in a while. But then all of a sudden in my Twitch chat, I see that my brother has put a little message in there that says, hey, go check your door. And I'm like, oh, okay, I'll do it in a little bit. No big deal. Whatever, just keep playing. And he's like, no, go do it now. Like, it's just go do it right now. So I like do a little thing where I mute the mic and I hide the webcam and I hop up and hop over there. And on the floor is this birthday cake, themed birthday cake Kit Kats. So we'll try these out. And the reason I say that these are going to be way different is because it's white chocolate instead of milk chocolate. So just in case you were curious about why they would be so different. All right, so we'll crack these open. It's a great blue color package. I will say that. They're working with a similar kind of color palette. They have the confetti in the chocolate. These smell something. These smell like cakey, I guess. I need to eat this before it melts in my fingers. Hang on. I think the little confetti pieces in the top of it are like little beads of candy. That's pretty good. Actually, these are really good. These are very good. There you go. I would absolutely recommend going and checking these out if you see them. That's upside down. Hang on, let's try this again. Let's flip it over. There you go. There's a better look at them. These are available. I would assume that he bought them at Target, but I don't know off the top of my head where he bought them. I had not seen them until they slid under my door, and I got up to get them. So there are a couple options that you can go and get should you so choose, but please, unless you're absolutely needing to leave, please stay home and stay safe. I don't need you going out and picking anything up that you don't need to pick up while you're trying to just get a limited edition Kit Kat. But if you do need essentials, these are a couple things you can grab for a little pick-me-up while things are maybe a little extra stressful for you. A sweet treat here or there might help. So there you go. I really recommend the Kit Kats. They're very good. Finally, on this week's show, we'll take a look at this week's new releases. There's nothing in theater still. There's really nothing on Blu-ray, but thankfully there are a bunch of games coming out this week, starting with Daymare 1998. This game is interesting because it has kind of a weird backstory. It apparently was originally a Resident Evil 2 fan remake until Capcom, the publisher of Resident Evil, the franchise, was like, hey, we're going to go ahead and shut that shit down because we don't really want you doing that. We're just going to make our own. So they basically just kept working on it, and they just changed everything around. And you can see the parallels between Daymare 1998 and Resident Evil 2. You play in like a kind of open area with multiple perspectives. It's survival horror with inventory management. And so it's like, oh, this is like very clearly... If it wasn't a direct like remake initially, people would look at this and go like, oh, this is Resident Evil 2. Like they were heavily inspired by / ripped off Resident Evil 2. So there's that. It could be kind of interesting. It's not getting great reviews, but if you're looking for a low budget survival horror game, if maybe Resident Evil 3 didn't quite tickle your fancy, maybe this kind of could work for you. We also have the Modern Warfare 2 campaign, Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2. They remastered just the campaign. They released it last month on PlayStation 4. They tried to do like a shadow drop. It was a month-long exclusive on that platform, and it releases this week on Xbox One. It is only $20, so that's pretty cool. Sure, whatever. I'm not the biggest fan of Call of Duty campaigns. I like the multiplayer a lot more. I think they play really well, and they're very fun to play, but the campaigns kind of drive me nuts with how they progress, and I don't usually care about the stories, so everything just kind of comes off as like dumb, shitty action movie, but without any of the fun, because everybody's really serious about it. And then we have 4 games that I'm really excited about. We have Moving Out, which is like kind of like an Overcooked game, but with a moving sort of paint to it, where instead of cooking, you are moving furniture out and trying to get it to the moving truck, overcoming various obstacles. We have Telling Lies, which is an FMV detective game that I'm really pumped to play. I've been feeling those FMV games lately, and I'm excited to play something that has like a little bit more of a detective-y tone to it. It looked really cool, and the lead actor is in Upgrade, which is pretty sweet. And then we have 2 smaller indie titles that I'm really, really excited about. The first one we have is Arcade Spirits, which is like a romantic comedy visual novel. And we have Starcrossed, which actually has one of my friends in the game, Simply Andrea. She's been working on doing a voice acting career, and this is a game that she's involved in, and I can't wait to play it because I want to support my friends and all the cool stuff that they are doing. And those final 3 games are actually going to be featured on twitch.tv/Shaunosaurus starting on Wednesday with Arcade Spirits. We're going to try that out and see how it is. It's an arcade game, or arcade style game, with magical girls. So how could that not be cool? On Thursday, we're going to continue Uncle Rico's Road to the Show, and we'll play a couple games of Mariners Baseball in the franchise. Friday is FMV Friday. We're going to be playing The Bunker, followed by more baseball. Saturday is going to be Saturday morning cartoons with Wallace and Gromit in Project Zoo, followed by probably baseball right after that, so in the early afternoon. And then after that, we're going to start Arcade Spirits. And then Sunday will probably be the same sort of schedule with baseball in the early afternoon. And then we'll follow that up with Telling Lies. And then on Monday, we'll be continuing Paper Mario. So if any of those games sound interesting to you, I'm playing them on twitch.tv/Shaunosaurus, so come stop by and enjoy the streams. Thank you so much for watching this week's episode of Week in Review. If you like the content, you can scroll on down and you can hit that subscribe button, and then you can ring the bell, and so you'll be notified when I post new videos. You can scroll on down a little bit more if you'd like, and you can leave me a comment, and you can tell me what you thought of the things that I talked about. The veritable smorgasbord of things at your disposal to tell me why I am correct or incorrect about them. Be sure to head on over to twitch.tv/Shaunosaurus on Wednesday through Monday to check out the streams. Feel free to follow or subscribe using Twitch Prime, and then be sure to check back every single Tuesday right here for more Week in Review. We'll see you next week.